That's a whole lot of Giviner, bud. In this JPGivin'er analysis, I'll be analyzing Fate's perspective from a 66 between higher octave and pirate hackers. I think the main theme of this analysis would be what not to do, simple as that. But there are a ton of general points as well, so you get the full package. But without further ado, let's start Giviner, bud. Starting things off, we got Mount Wario. Not much happened this race since Fate was able to run quite easily, but I suppose this would be a good time to talk about how to front run to the best of your ability, because it is a lot more simplistic than pack play or bagging. And as always, when I say you, I'm most likely referring to Fate. After the first set, if you pull a coin in first, you almost never want to spam it, because even though that is 2 extra coins, and coins do mean a lot in this game, you need to protect yourself. Your teammate could be behind you and want the double box to protect himself, which is exactly how things played out at the second set. But what if your teammate got taken out in between second and third set and you were defenseless? Whereas if you didn't spam your coin, you would be guaranteed protection by holding it until passing the second set. The only drawback is losing a tiny bit of speed that doesn't really matter that much in the long run. When maintaining a top spot for your team, it is super important to protect yourself the best you can. Not doing so is not a full throttle moment in my eyes, and could screw your team over on that race and potentially in the entire match. Also, a general thing I saw you doing this race was trailing right away in situations where you don't have to. The main place you don't want to trail immediately is as soon as the race starts while you're in the pack, and you didn't do that on the races you submitted, so good job for that. But you shouldn't trail unless you absolutely need to, especially if you're in first, since if you get blued, your trail will say GG, see you next race, bud. Next thing you know, you're getting redded right after when you could have avoided it had you not trailed right away. So moving forward, try to limit how frequently you trail items. Trailing is definitely an essential in this game, but in some cases, keeping your item in hand is the better play. Again, Fate ran this entire race, so there's not much else to talk about, but I do like that you took the ending shortcut, and it's not because it's a shortcut, but rather because you were in the clear of getting screwed over by any of the greens you were avoiding. Using shrooms then getting hit at the very end is a pretty tough way to lose the race, because you know if you held that shroom, you could have gotten a better spot. So even if you weren't thinking about the greens and potentially holding your shroom in the event you got hit, good job shrooming and staying in the clear of getting screwed over. That pays off big time in the long run. Next up is Cheeseland. Fate opted to run this race, so while you would think there wouldn't be much to talk about, well, there is. So let's see what happens. I just wanted to say, great job on capitalizing on the opportunity to trail your opponent. I think abusing lag trails is one of the most important plays you can make while next to opponents, since what you see on your screen could be completely different from what they see on their screen. You saw your opponent was just outside of the tight lines on your screen, you went inside, trailed the guy, and we're giving her. So keep this up, because this can help a lot, as long as you don't screw yourself in the process. Now, as unlucky as this may seem, you fireballing yourself was a pretty likely outcome. When you toss fire upon a tight turn, there's a pretty good chance it'll come back to bite you like it did here. On top of that, you had to rely on a crazy smart bounce to hit your opponent as well. What you should have done instead was waited until the following straight, then throw your fire all over the place. You'd have a better chance at landing easy hits on both of your opponents and a lesser chance of your fire smart bouncing back to screw you because of the wide curve on the following turn. In other words, you'd be given her full throttle by using your fire like this. Plus, using your fire here in particular just doesn't usually work because of the uphill. So next time, wait until the smooth following straight and you'll turn out much better. Stop trolling is an interesting topic because there are only a few general situations where it's a good idea to do so. This was not one of them. The main reason why teams have runners on hard bagging tracks is to ensure that they have at least some front presence and to ensure that not the entire room is trying to bag. My point here is that you should be focusing on breaking away rather than going out of your way to screw over your opponents, especially considering your team had shock. It's just not worth it to stop troll runners because more likely than not, you're just going to help them. This is proven by one of your opponents who you stop trolled since they pulled triple shrooms at the following set. I'm not saying don't hit your opponents at all, but as a runner, you should be trying to break as far away as possible before the shock, rather than putting your focus on the two opponents running with you. It's a tough situation, but you really only need to focus on yourself while running, so stop trolling isn't necessary and can sometimes hurt you and your team. Look, I understand why you would want to get your ghost out because you want to potentially have a golden and triple shrooms, or even a better item, but I'll tell you right now that using your golden early was not the play. Ironically, having the ghost in your pocket was actually better for you because there was no way your golden could get stolen in the glitter cuts, which gives you even more reason to hold on to your golden. I suppose it was a tight situation for you, triple res in front and a bill coming up, but I think you would have been better off holding your golden until the first glider regardless. The worst case scenario would be you getting hits and you're forced to begin goldening earlier than you'd like. You definitely don't want to leave your fate in the hands of chance, which is what you did here, and thus you couldn't take the shortcut. I know you still managed to get 5th, but moving forward, try to be a bit more patient with your items in endgame situations. Again, worst case scenario, you get hit, and you have to use your golden earlier than you'd like. It's something to think about. Lastly, we have Music Park. This race includes quite a few don'ts. That's just how it is. I don't think Fate played poorly by any means. He just could have played better in a few situations. So let's get her going, bud. This is just a small thing, but honestly, I would have avoided going for the doubles here. You already had one item, and considering you were in the pack, you could have stolen the doubles from a teammate who needed it. Sure, you could say the same for your opponents, but I doubt whoever got the doubles would get super aggressive items, considering you pulled a shroom. In the scenario where your mate gets the doubles, that's great for your team. If your opponents get the doubles, then oh well. I mean, I don't know what was happening in the call, so maybe taking the doubles from a potential opponent was the play. But generally speaking, if you don't have a good idea of who's behind you, just leave the doubles open. I don't really mind that you backed your red here, and it would have been fine had you gotten the box, but you didn't. And there was a good chance of you getting redded out as a result. I'll keep this brief. The best thing to take away from this is that you can never be too safe in this game. If I were you, I'd hold on to my red, assess the situation before the shortcut, and if it's safe, back my red and shroom up. Just keep this thought process in mind moving forward, and you'll be given her full throttle. Alright, I know that the red shell connected with your opponent, but that's not always going to happen here because of the piranha plants. You can use them to your advantage to break reds if they're coming for you, so next time, either throw your red up before the piranha plants or afterwards. I suppose you were making sure you could throw your red just so you wouldn't accidentally red any teammates right behind you, so tossing your red after the plants would have been the play. You didn't lose out on much by tossing your red here, but you did lose out on an opportunity to screw over your opponent. The guy had shrooms in his pocket, so what you could have done is held your red. He either wouldn't take cut to protect himself, or he would back his protection like he did, take shortcut, and you could red him. If he didn't take shortcut, the play would be to throw your red to hit him on the turn, since it's basically like dodging a POW on a turn in Mario Kart Wii. Your opponent most likely would have to get rid of his drift to safely back the red, and his whole groove would be messed up as a result. It's a little complex, I know, but holding onto your red here would have been the play, and would have given you more options to take your opponent out. Lastly, when you see someone driving around the keys here, you should assume the doubles will be taken, and as we can see here, they were. It didn't really screw you over since you held your shroom anyways, but aiming for a single could have changed a thing or two in your race. So next time, when your opponent goes wide on this turn in particular, you should assume the doubles will be taken, since that most likely won't be the case if they take the key trick because of lag. But yeah, it didn't matter since you maintained 7th place. Yeehaw, bud! I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As for Fate, you played pretty well in the races you submitted. There are just a couple things you could improve on or limit. I'd suggest focusing on strategically trailing, not stop trolling when you don't need to, and throwing reds in places where your opponents can't avoid them. So with that being said, I wish you the best of luck moving forward. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, have yourselves a fantastic day, and keep on giving her, bud.